Welcome to the Empowered Team podcast. I'm your host, Kari Schneider, and I am so excited to have a wonderful expert. And we're talking world expert. She's an accountant, but not only a CPA in Canada, the US, the UK. Welcome, my good friend and author and speaker and phenom when it comes to anything managing accounts, Ishali Mulchandani. So welcome, Ishali. You, before we dive into all the details, because it's tax season and people want to know the things, you are based in Canada. You're based in Oakville, outside of Toronto. But what's more interesting to me, and I think interesting to our listeners, is that you're really acting as a CFO. You have an accounting practice. You have a a firm. But this CFO position, it's your passion to really help business owners get through the stuff that they don't want to do, they don't like, because they're passionate about their business. Well, you're passionate about helping them with the numbers, helping them with the bottom line in order for them to do their business. So I think this is something that it's the thing that people love to hate, which is often tax time and accounting. And you're that person that they love to love because you help them through it. Would that be an accurate description of what you're up to?
Hari, I couldn't have said this better myself. So you're absolutely right. You've hit it on the nail. That's completely true. Most CPAs are so as CPAs we're trained to kind of work for the government because we're taught do this or else you're responsible, do this or else. So a lot of us operate historically our profession operates out of fear of the tax authorities and they're more compliance focused. So almost I feel like if I were the business owner, I would think like, oh my God, aren't you supposed to be on my side? So I feel very strongly and very passionately about that, where my first and foremost wish is to make sure that the client gets the outcome they want. And most clients, most business owners are growing. They want to grow. So when they grow, I find that they struggle with cash flow. I find they struggle with profit, their bottom line. And after that, they also struggle with tax. So I've made it my mission to help them in all these areas, which are the very common pain points of every business owner, because that is what stops them to go from the next level to the next level to the next level. All of these common things. So that's what we do.
You've just hit a few things that I think are sensitive points for business owners, but maybe even for other accountants as well, because it sounds to me, tell me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds to me like you've felt the pressure of being in the service industry, serving people that you really care about and their goals in business. But at the same time, the pressure of, okay, the rules change every year. Guess what? Government of Canada, of the US, of the UK, here are your new rules, accountants, and you've got to figure out how to jump through those hoops and make sure you follow all those rules out of this fear and compliance kind of structure. So not only am I hearing that this is tough for accountants, but then the people that you're serving often don't realize the pressure that you're under. And it seems to me like you've done the work to rise above that, to go, okay, this is our circumstance, this is our situation, and how can I follow through on my purpose in order to serve businesses and clients the best without succumbing to the fear and the pressures and the rules and the compliances, even though you still have to follow all that. I mean, we're not saying that you're bending any rules, it's not the thing, but it's the not succumbing to the fear of them. Instead going, oh, this is the way it is. And how can we be flexible? How can we flow? How can we still follow the structure with ease, if you will? Does that sound like some of what you're up to?
Yes, absolutely. You've got that right, Kari, because the rules are constantly changing. The landscape of tax has changed so much over the years. And so being proactive and checking the pulse of what's going on, which rule is affecting to which client, that takes a lot of mindful work, which is why when we onboard a client, we fully understand that, they're in our protective care. So looking out for those things, having those conversations with them, not being caught off guard is it, this, it's almost like you got to be on top of things all the time. And running a business myself, I truly feel the pain points of a business owner, of cash flow, or saying, hey, this is your HST bill or your sales tax bill or your corporate tax bill at the end. Those are reactive measures. And I see this all the time, that business owners, when they switch accountants and they come to us and we prepare them, put this money aside, pay this estimate so you're not caught later on. They like that because they're able to manage their cash flow better. Because at the end of the day, those amounts, nobody likes tax. In fact, I have a client who says, oh, you're going to talk about the T word again. I said, yes, honey, I am going to talk about the T word again. It's not going away anywhere. I kind of humor with it. I play
Death
with
and
it.
taxes, baby.
Nobody likes them, right? It's just so I'm like, look, let's pay the least amount as possible. I've got some people who are so afraid of taxes that they say to me, oh my God, Ishal, if we make all this money, we'll pay more tax. And I said to them, look, even if you pay the highest tax rate, which is 50 cents to the dollar, that's 50 cents to the dollar you didn't have today. So go make money and we will help you to save the taxes. In December, we saved so many of our clients 6 figures in taxes. And it was incredible because we do have strategies. We have regular strategies, advanced strategies, all depends on what clients need. So sometimes clients will tell you things not directly, but you got to hear it in between the lines. And then, the ability to pick on that and say, hey, you mentioned this, are you doing this? Or you mentioned this, are you doing this? Because they don't think like our minds are working on the go to create creative ways, is what I would say. I do not encourage tax evasion or anything illegal because that puts them and us at risk. That's not where I'm coming from. I feel that our goal and our mission is to put more money back in people's pockets. And how do we do that is, encourage them to skill and shatter their limiting beliefs of more business means more work, So to kind of shift that mindset thereafter, figure out the leaks in their business or where the bottom line is getting affected. There are so many leaks, from high accounts receivable to high inventory to high bank charges to high all different kind of costs that suck up all their profits. And then so I do this analogy. It's like an hourglass. Increase your revenue, reduce your expenses, increase your bottom line, and then we can do our magic of saving more tax.
I love how you've described this, and especially because you're describing a lot of what I end up doing as well, which is reading between the lines, doing the active listening, the deep listening, figure out what's really going on at the same time. And the beautiful thing about this is that you've honed this skill because you care, and also because you earned it. You've learned it by going through business yourself. You're not an employee. You have your own practice and you are a business owner. Therefore, those same pinches and pulls and pushes that an entrepreneur feels, you felt as a business owner. Not only that, you've realized as a business owner, well, what were my limiting beliefs about my own business? What did I have to go through in order to get there? And so you're so in touch with what the entrepreneur is experiencing. And then you know it because you can read their mind because you've already been through that thing. So here's my question for you. If you thought of the top 3 main complaints that people have when it comes to their taxes, their business with their taxes, whatever it is, and not that they have to pay taxes, but the top 3 complaints that they have versus maybe the top 3 things that they should be doing that they didn't know, something like that. What do you have for us? Because you are the expert. What have you seen that people just don't realize?
So a lot of the times, the clients will say to me, "Oh, this is the profit, but where is the money? Like they don't see it in their bank, and they miss what happens in between." And at that point, I feel it's my pleasure, it's my joy to help them understand so that they're more aware. I actually prefer that clients ask questions rather than say, "Okay, where do I sign?" And that aversion mentality. I want them to understand so they can help themselves, because nothing makes me more happy to see them than to see them grow and thrive. So one is the I would say, um, the understanding of financial literacy in terms of what the financial statements are trying to tell them, that is a very big gap, I find, from a client perspective. And as you rightly said, I would say almost every challenge that a business owner goes through. I've run several businesses in my career, accounting practice being one of them. So I understand what a franchise, a restaurant would be going through. I've understood what a sales kind of a sales-oriented business would go through. And again, a service industry. So product, services, sales, all kinds that, and plus the training that I've gone through. And also, what I learned from what my clients are doing. So talking about clients, the other challenge I see very often is cash flow. They like just yesterday, I had a client say to me, my husband is working so hard in the business, and I don't see, we're always in a credit card debt situation because I know he doesn't want to pay taxes. How can we bring the money out so we can be comfortable? Now, I can exactly see where she's coming from. Now, this requires a deep dive. And I had to help her understand that a business needs operational cash flow. If money is sucked out of the business, it will not thrive. It needs salaries and rent and all of that. So some money needs to stay in the business. However, there are so many expenses that you are incurring out of pocket that should actually belong to the business. So she does a lot of running around because she's on the corporate payroll and she does a lot of back end supporting work. I said, this car you're driving, whose name is it under? She said, it's under my name. I said, okay, who pays for the gas? She said, I do. I said, you're not writing this off in the business? She says, no. We had a meal outside. She took care of it. I said, who paid for this meal? She said, I did. I said, which card? She said, mine. I said, this is also business expense. So little things like that, people miss. And now there is something called pre-tax dollars and post-tax dollars. If you're spending any money that is contributing to the increase of the bottom line or the business directly, even indirectly, those are expenses that a lot of clients forget that they can use the company expense fund for that. So the pre-tax dollars that means you have your revenue, you have all the expenses, and then you have a net income and you pay tax on that. Okay. Now, every owner, when they take money out of the business, they pay personal income tax because the corporation is separate and they are separate. So the moment they take a salary or they take dividend, they pay anywhere from 38 to 50% tax, depending on how much is their overall income for the year. So if they are expensing those, so that same example I shared, the car gas, the restaurant, she's paying from that 50% that she got versus the 100% that could have been. Right. So this is a common thing that people miss. They forget to spend from pre-tax dollars, they spend from post-tax dollars, and that just magnifies the crunch of cash.
Yes, because they're spending money that's getting taxed that they didn't need to be spending from that money. They could have been spent from the business money.
Yeah.
So the thing you're pointing to here is, and this is kind of answering that question of that I wanted to ask of what are some of the things that you wish people would do? And I'll let you answer that in a second, but I'm hearing some of that in this, in that you're educating them on things that they're missing, which if you think of a business owner, they never in a million years would have thought that because they're busy trying to do whatever their craft is, whatever their business is, they're doing all that stuff. So you've come up with a business academy program, and it's literally designed to help entrepreneurs understand not only where they want to go, but some of the things that they're just missing that they didn't know they needed to know. Yes. So if there was a couple of things that you wish people were doing that would not only help them, but also help you, and then it becomes not just a win-win, but an overall win-win-win, because the helping themselves and then helping the accounting process makes everything so much better. So what do you wish people were doing? Is it things like tracking their mileage, or is it things like if there was, is it daily things or monthly things? What do you wish your clients were doing that you kind of, at the end of the day, you're like, I've told them how many times I wish they would just, what are those types of things? Give me one or two of those.
Okay, so record keeping is very key. A lot of clients don't keep accurate records. I mean, especially for new business owners, because the business doesn't have money of its own. So rather than keeping on putting money in the business until it generates its own revenue to make expense, they just do it out of pocket, but they don't keep records of it. And then later on, after the fact, it's like you can take this money out of the business tax free because you put it in. It's almost like you loaned money to the
Right.
business. So keep track of those expenses. The common ones people miss is use of home as office. Almost every business owner that I know uses their home as office directly. They may not actively even be working from home. Like me, for example, I have an office, but there are times like right now I'm doing this from home, or there are many times I work from home. So that designated area, they don't think of it. They don't think, oh, I could write this off. So a portion of their mortgage interest, utilities, property tax, and a couple of other expenses. So total square footage, and so total area that they're using versus the total square footage of their home, that proportion, whether it's 10%, 15%, 20%, it's still something that
Mhm.
utilized as an expense because the business owner is using it. The other thing is mileage. Um, so there's a myth that people think home to work is allowed. It's not. Home to
Mhm.
work is not allowed. So certain things are,
Everyone hear that? Home to work and not allowed. Okay, we got it.
so people think, so here's what I find commonly, Kari, is that people miss what's allowed versus what's not allowed. So I just like to educate them. But if you're saying that this is my office, this home is my office, then I'm going from one office to another, I'm going to a client, keep a mileage of log of that. And then you know that you either do it times the 50 or 60, 56 or 60 cents per kilometer that's allowed by the CRA, or you have your company own the car, the vehicle that you're using, and take care of all of its expenses. And at the end of the year, tell your accountant to put a adjusting entry for personal use. Because no matter what, every business owner uses the company car for personal use. So it almost makes more sense to have the company have its car, because if you don't do that adjusting entry, that is a taxable benefit that will go on your T4 or your
Mhm.
T2, where you're getting the benefit of using the company car, but you would have otherwise had to go get a car for yourself, right? So it's a way of ensuring, like the Tesla that this business owner had was in his name, and I'm like, why are you not putting it on the corporate name? Tesla is a very good example because Tesla is usually charged at home at night,
Yeah.
and that's the utility bills do go up for that reason.
Yeah.
Not to miss out on something like that, because when you go fill gas, that's an easy thing to record. But how do you record the increase in your? You have to be mindful of that, right? So, I mean, a lot of the times clients are missing these things. Training is another way. Like when you have a team and you're training them, that's a totally deductible expense in your business. And I love investing in training my team because I feel, if I were to give them a raise, they would pay tax on that money. Then they would go and study. I'd rather take care of it because
Mhm.
it's from pre-tax dollars for both of us.
Yes.
But that's another common one that I find is very useful. So there are many ways that, depending on the industry, sometimes people miss business development expense. They'll
Mhm.
go to an event to make connections, and they think that because they went to an event, it's got to come out of their pocket. But if they went there to network, then it is a business development expense. So I'm giving you just some common examples that people don't think because like you rightly said, as business owner, most of us are artists. We're so focused on what we're doing that this is a part we completely miss.
Mhm.
And I told this client of mine who was talking about, this is what I told her. She's our client in Vancouver, and I just met them. And I said to her, here's what I'm going to suggest. Make a list of all your expenses. So you have your salary, you have your husband's salary. Make a list of all your expenses on a monthly basis. I want to see historical data to see where your money is going. Why are you short? And then we can find a way to ensure that if there are some that belong to the business, then the business pays for it. If they belong personally, then you pay for it. And then we make sure that there's enough coming out of the business for you as salary or dividend to take care of this so that you're not paying 19% interest to the credit card company. We're not in the business to make the credit card rich. Is rich and the bank rich. We're trying to help you keep more money because so I think the common flavor, Kari, is leaks. We've got to stop leaks. You know, these sneaky little subscriptions we pay and we forget about it.
Yeah.
Those are very common leaks. And I
Yeah.
think that doing the personally and professionally doing a cash flow statement to see where the money is coming is so useful because that is what will help you to look at it visually and say, oh my God, I can do without this, or I
Yeah.
can do without that. And every 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 bucks a month adds up.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
some apps we thought was a great idea to go for, but then we realized we're not using it as much. And then we stopped.
Yes, exactly.
Important to do that. It's important to really guard every dollar because it's your bottom line that gets affected at the end.
Well, it's so interesting because I know that some entrepreneurs might listen to this and go, well, it sounds like there's so much detail, so many things I have to focus on, or it's nickel and diming. But the truth is that there's a level of detail that the government wants and that you're going to have to submit. So why not do that on your own behalf instead of only be succumbing to what the government wants overall? Let yourself be in control versus the government dictating you feeling like you are being poked or prodded or pushed around. So so I've heard a few things. There's the making sure that you've accounted for things like your driving, your home office, the leaks of extra expenses. Like these are big things. Those are they seem like small things, but they really add up in order to not only increase cash flow in the company, but also reducing the overall expenses. And if it's systematized or you're in the habit of doing those things, then it's more attention towards the business, more focus on the business. So what would you say, is there kind of a psychological or a belief system that you run into over and over and over that people have? Like maybe it's just that they hate taxes, or maybe it's that one of the first things you said, it's that they don't want to look. You'd rather have people ask questions versus just sign the document here. They don't even want to know. Just get it over with. I can't stand it. What are some of the most common belief systems that you run into on the side that doesn't work, but then on the side that does work, what are some of the belief systems that you're like, yes, that's really helping them move forward fast? So what are the two polarized kind of ways of thinking or believing that you see?
So, I don't know anybody till today who says I like paying taxes. So that's a very common belief that nobody likes paying taxes.
Okay, wait, hang on. You know what I've taught myself on this is that if I'm paying taxes, I'm making money. So the gift about paying taxes is that it means that not only are we serving our country or our community or whatever, we are giving back in a way that serves our roads or our communities or whatever, but it means that whatever we're up to in the world, whatever our purpose is, it means that it's creating value, because all money is value in the world. It's an exchange of value. So I'll say that out loud in order for people to hopefully
Thank you,
I try to remind myself of that when I'm grumbling about taxes. So I'll say that out loud to try and reinforce it, if you will.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you just said it, like, because it's a spiritual thing, right? Money is an energy and it needs to flow. So I agree with you that taxes do need to be paid, but why pay more than you need to? Because at some point when you're parting with half of what you made, there is some sort of feeling of, okay, why am I working so hard if I'm giving half of it to someone else, right? So that's a very natural feeling. However, the degrees of resistance vary from very low to very high. The very low resistance are people who have the mindset, okay, I'm fortunate enough to make money, so I'm going to pay a bit of tax. And some actually even say, you know what, I want to pay my fair share. I don't want to. So I have those as well. But Nobody, I think for the majority of them, there is a huge amount of resistance. It's almost like um, fear-based, like, oh my God, I'm afraid. Oh my God, I have like, it's fear-based. And it's also that they just don't want to even accept that it's real.
Mhm.
Like the client was talking about, like she said, the T word. She is so averse that she will delay her filings on purpose because she doesn't want to look at it.
Avoidance, avoidance,
And
avoidance.
one day I literally did this. We caught up. Then I added up all her interest and penalties and I showed her the number. It was a big number. And she just looked at me. She said, "What is that?" I said, "That's how much interest and penalty you paid for late filing." And she just looked at me again. I said, "Yes, honey, that could have been your vacation money for you and your family. You tipped the government. This is called tipping the government. You don't need to do that." What?
What? Please, I love it. Tipping the government.
Tipping them for what? I mean, and it gets worse, Kari. That money, interest and penalties is not tax deductible. You cannot deduct it as an expense. So when we have interest and penalties, and if you deduct them in your corporate tax return, you will get denied. Interest.
Oh,
If you owe money to the government, you'd rather better off going and borrowing from a line of credit or somewhere and paying the government. At least that interest you can deduct if you're borrowing from line of credit or somewhere. But the interest and penalty money you cannot deduct.
yes. And it's interesting because they have a deadline for a reason because it's a system that needs to keep going. And we tend to think that that deadline is serving them, but really it's serving us if we're staying within the deadlines because then we're not paying interest and penalties and we're staying on track with whatever is owed or whatever our incomes are. So those deadlines aren't there as punishments or as something to avoid, but rather something to embrace and like, okay, this is going to get wrapped up because of this deadline.
Yeah. I've noticed that those people who are open to being in the discipline of putting a certain percentage out for taxes and paying those estimates, at the end of it, when we're filing, they're not stressed. It's almost like when you're an ACE student and you're really welcoming that report card. It's almost like that.
Or welcoming the test because you stuck.
You're accountable, right? So at the end, those clients actually end up getting a little bit of a refund because they pay a little bit extra and they get happy, even though it's their money coming back to them, they get really happy about it, right? So it's always, I do tell my clients that there are two kind of financials you need to look at. One is the one that is for compliance purposes that you're basing your corporate tax return on. And the other is for your internal management purposes to actually see the monies coming in and out. Because if you're not prepared for the monies that are going to go out, then you're unnecessarily borrowing. If you're not managing the flow, you're borrowing, and borrowing is not cheap, but it's costing you money. If you're better organized on your cash flow, you don't need to borrow. You're better. Again, that eats into your bottom line. Every 7 or 10% eats into your bottom line. So why pay that? Not only that, some businesses have constricted and gone under because of cash flow reasons. So I have a client who takes on large projects and he upfronts the money and then he gives them 90 days to pay. And that really eats into his bottom line. So, I kind of said, well, how about this? How about if we do this? How about if we do this? The seafood container client of mine was getting his containers from Far East, paying for them in advance, storing the goods, and then when they sold, his terms are 60 days, but they would delay and eventually get his money in 90 days. So he was hurting his money. He was doing about $5 million in revenue. And I said to him, you've been in business for a while now. Why don't you ask your vendors if they give you terms? Like you are giving terms to your clients, you ask for terms. And limiting belief, oh, they'll not agree. I said, well, try. You never know. You've been giving them business all this time. Try. And he did, and they gave him terms. So now he was not giving them the money. Then I said to him, secondly, these people who are paying you 90 days, why don't you say 30 days? He said, no, that's not going to work. I said, why don't we see he said, no, that's industry average. I said, okay, fine. If 60 days is industry average, why don't we say, okay, 60 days, otherwise you'll pay interest? He said, that's not going to work because he knew his clients. I said, okay, because there's certain kind. I said, why don't we offer then a cash discount? It's
Plus
cost
paying within 30 days.
No, for paying on delivery. So
On
if
delivery.
keeping the money with them for 90 days is costing you this much, and if you are applying that, a little bit of that to the numbers make total sense. Basically, I said it's costing you, let's say, $1,000 to keep the money out for 90 days. If you give a $500 discount, you're still $500 better off and you get your money. There's less chance of bad debt. He loved the idea. I said, yes, that can work. I said, let's try. So we stopped the leak by not paying the vendors right away. We increased the cash flow by doing this. I am telling you, his bottom line, his profit margin doubled. And the following year, so did his revenue because he was able to turn his money around faster.
Well, it also not only is he's turning it around his money faster, but he's messaging to the clients that he values his own business, he values them, and these are some of the parameters that he's willing to work within, and he's really still communicating what options for them so that he shows that, oh, I care. I'm not trying to force anything on you, but here are some options that can for you best. And it sends that message along the way, which can help that relationship with the client as well. It's funny because for years I've said this phrase that numbers don't lie, they don't tell the whole story either. And I feel like that's the epitome of what your work is, in that the science is around the numbers. You love seeing the numbers and letting the numbers tell you a story. But then you said something earlier that I think would really surprise most people when they think of accountants. And it's that, this is a business. Accounting is a spiritual journey. it is not just numbers. It is what we make it. It's our process. It's our journey that explains our path in life, or our purpose, or our progress. And every time you've told a story, they've all come down to a mindset or a belief that stopped the person from having the success that they want. So, you end up being this person who's nurturing someone through a process to give them the confidence to say, oh, that's the change I needed to make, but I can't make it, but I can't make it, but I can't make it, until you're going, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Until they're at a space where they believe that, well, yeah, I didn't think of that. I could actually do that thing. And then away they go. So the way you've described it, it really is a spiritual scenario, because people are going through their own transformation mentally, emotionally, perhaps spiritually, in order to get to a place where they are at a next level. And it's not just feeling like the numbers are pulling them down and that it's just a burden, but rather it's an exciting thing to work together with. And that the magic that you're putting together throughout.
Yeah, you got that right. I mean, people don't see it sometimes. Like, even, they work so hard, and I just love that but then they don't enjoy the journey. So, like, I had this lady who was who's in the business of providing dentists with dental appliances, and she was really working hard, and she was always complaining. And I said, hey, why don't you raise your prices a little bit? She said, oh, I'm going to lose business. And I said, well, you'll still make more money. She said, how? And I had her attention. I said, look, if, for example, if you're making $1,000 per client, and you in profit, and you make $10,000, and you raise your prices, that will make you get $1,200 profit per client. And even if you lose two, you're still making more money. Because I actually asked her a question. I said, okay, if you raise it by this much, how many would you lose? She said 20%. Then people don't understand until you demonstrate by numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers.
Right. You need to see the black and white.
So, because it was a belief that I will lose these, then I asked, okay, how many? Then she told me, I said, okay, let me show you how you can actually make more money and work less. And a year later, she was taking trips, she was enjoying herself, and her profit margin increased. It is such a joy to see business owners enjoy. People go into business for various reasons. But when I see people be stuck in operator mode and not enjoy the journey, it hurts me. It hurts me to even hear the statistics, where when I hear 80% of the businesses or 96% of the businesses fail in the first. I'm like, if I could make a dent in that number, if I could be a contributor to that stats, it would really make. That's why I wrote that book, because I spoke vulnerably about the mistakes even I made as an accountant. Sometimes, like, we're all human and we learn from that. So I would want to share these insights of my own challenges and the clients that I see their challenges, and what we all collectively learn from that, so that they could benefit. If I had a book like that when I was starting my business, I would have learned so much, and it would just have fast tracked everything that I've been through, from cash flow to staffing to, difficult client situations, price, everything, you name it. Because at the end of the day, Corey, business is a spiritual game. I felt I've been on a spiritual path for a long time, reading books and doing a retreat, going to attend spiritual retreats. And with the business, I'm, as an accountant, as a CPA, very professional, and then at some point, I combined the two. When I heard, like, oh, business is a spiritual game, it makes total sense. There was this expansive feeling, and it was infinite. It was, like, really joyous to say, okay, I just felt I could do more. I could do more. I could do more. The desire was always there, I just didn't know how. And then because when I had my practice in the UK, in London, we had very high-end fashion clients like Jimmy Choo. That's essentially what we did. We did fractional CFO. So we had a team in our office that did their bookkeeping. I would meet with them on a regular basis. We would do all kinds of things that you do with the CFO. And I thought, it worked really well there. It's going to work here. So I started it, and I realized I'm enjoying it so much, because to have somebody who has a very good business hat on and a CFO hat on and a tax hat on, and you have the whole holistic approach of that, I did not realize what a gift this is, really. And to top it all, to have cross border, because now the world is such a small place. People are doing business in both countries, they're moving back and forth. So to be able to help them, I just feel like it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to do that.
Oh, it's so beautiful and it's so refreshing, because I think that people have a vision of accountants as being very dry, black and white, number focused, and you are really breaking that paradigm to go, you know what? I'm not ashamed to say I've earned it and I've learned it, and this is really what it's about. It's an experience, it's spiritual, it's a journey, it's part of being human, all these struggles that you go through. And when you see that bigger picture, it allows you to be able to serve and help in ways that are so much greater than just accounting, that are just, following the rules, crunching the numbers. You're still crunching numbers, you're still following the rules, but in a way that serves the people and serves the business and them flourishing, not just, paying the tax bill kind of thing, or, being afraid of what the consequences are. And you've pointed to your book, and it's called Achieving Business Prosperity. Is that ready for people? Can people find that? Where would they find it?
So the book is ready, but it's going through some final stages before it goes out to be published. And it will be found on Amazon. I'm also looking into a Canadian publisher as well for that. So I just stay tuned. We will have the launch announced in March, and it is going to be very exciting. It's just my passion project. I'm just so excited about its launch.
This is perfect, because I think by the time this episode airs, we'll have the link in the show notes for people to grab the book on Amazon and be able to get that. And beyond that, where can people reach you as well? Where's your favorite place to hang out? Is it Instagram? Is it your website? How can people reach you?
So we can be reached very easily on our website, taxaccountantidm.com. We also have an Instagram, we have LinkedIn. Any one of those are good to reach out. If you just send us an email on info, we respond right away. We also have on our website like chat box. If you have a question, you can ask on there and somebody will answer. But I think that we're very much like, we like the people interaction. So we love it when people reach out to us, and then we can have an engaging conversation and see how we can meet their needs best. So any
Well,
of those platforms are good. We will share those links with you.
I love it. Well, I can speak from personal experience that it is very much a customized and special experience. And there's a piece of advice that you've shared, and I want you to share this with everyone else about under promising and over delivering. If there's that piece of advice, and I'd also like to ask if you were to give a piece of advice to the past version of yourself, maybe it was a version of yourself that was struggling in business or uncertain how to go forward, but what piece of advice would you give the past version of yourself?
Um, so, in my book, I've talked about inner harmony. So I feel that that is so important because everything in life is an inside out game. So is business. Because business people talk about goals and you want to get from here to there. But I think if you understand, if I wish I could understand back then, it's all got to be driven from the inside. I've always felt that I'm very goal oriented, very driven, but sometimes when challenges happen, you kind of constrict. But that openness is so important. That is why you'll see on the cover of my book there's a lotus, because that opening is so essential. When we get attacked or we get an unpleasant situation, we close, and that stunts the growth of everything around us. It stunts the progression of our business. It stunts the progression of anything that goes for any, because you're constantly relating to people, right?
Mhm.
So even in relation, if you notice that when two people are talking to each other and one hurts the other one closes. Same thing happens to us in a business, because at the end of the day, we're human beings. So if a client attacks us or a team member is behaving in a manner that's very challenging, or there is a cash flow situation, or the bank or the CRA, we get attacked with like a gazillion amount of times. So that's what it takes to be a business owner. There's a reason some people call us gladiators, because we're on the front line, always, protecting and moving forward, and protecting and moving forward. So we need to have the resilience to not only get up and keep going, but then to say, okay, I'm opening my heart again. I'm opening again to but just be wiser, and let's not make the same mistakes over and over again, just to learn from that. But I think the openness is definitely very important, because that creates abundance, that creates more love, that creates more transparency, that creates a very positive feeling. There is no room for negativity in any journey that you would select, and it will creep in, but it's our job to kind of say, okay, dissipate. It's not needed, you know?
I love it. The inner harmony and the inside out game with this resilience, it really sounds like being able to protect yourself while still being open and still being accepting. And so it's this, and that's where that harmony comes in, because it's not just one or the other. It's a blend of both, and that's what really makes the end game um not just palatable, but fantastic and beautiful experience.
Yes, I always want to see business owners not just thrive, but enjoy the journey. I mean, but I had a lawyer client, and she's really brilliant, and she said, I'm really struggling with this, and she wanted to hire somebody, and she was thinking it's too much in terms of money. And I said, okay, well, how much will this person bring? And when she told me this much, I said, well, then what you're paying her just one third of what she'll bring. Isn't that a good thing? And you're not paying her all this money up front. You're paying her over time. So it only translates to this much per month. And then she's going to bring you this much per month right from the get-go. Isn't that a good deal? And she's like, oh yeah, it is a good deal. And then she went for it. And
Isn't
then
that interesting that we can't, when we're in it, and this is true for any human, when we're in it, it's so hard to see. And that's where you as a professional, other professionals in other realms, where the professional comes in, it becomes so much more logical, and instead of shrouded in our own uncertainties or belief systems or past experiences that might be, tinging the scenario.
yeah,
Well, I really, really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate so much the nuggets that you've shared. I hope people are applying this. Not only they can probably sneak this in this tax season, but also for their patterns, their habits, their support systems for their future. and be able to reach you and know that your book will be available. Hopefully, we have the link here, Achieving Business Prosperity. Any last words before we depart?
Yeah, I would like to say that don't be afraid of numbers. They're your friends. Once when I had so I have a lot of fractional CFO clients, I make it fun for them, and she just did not want to look at the numbers. And I said, repeat after me. I love numbers. Numbers love me. And she yeah. I said, just humor me. Just repeat after me. And we giggled about it. And after that, I showed her spreadsheets, and she had a blast. She had a great time. It's to drop that resistance. What you resist persists. So if you resist the numbers, you resist the tax, just don't resist, embrace it. Is there to help you? Work with a good tax professional who can guide you and who can, because it is a very isolating game. Business can be a very isolating game, but you need the finances. They're there to back you up. So somebody solid who can back you up to take you through that finish line, to take you through that to the next level is so vital. And just pay your taxes on time, but just don't pay more than you have to. Do not tip the government. Just find a way to just optimize your situation and pay it on time.
The last line is, and just pay your taxes on time, but don't pay more than you have to. I'm like, wow, this is so good.
You don't have to pay more than you have to.
Well, thank you so much, Ishali, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your heart. It's been a beautiful experience. And I hope that people really draw this valuable, these nuggets that you've been able to share.
Thank you so much, Kari. I appreciate you so much.
You as well.
Thank you.